You wake up. It is still dark, maybe 3 in the morning. Something woke you. You are not sure what. You go to roll over, and nothing happens. Your body will not move. You try again, harder this time. Not a finger, not your head, nothing. You are completely awake, but your body is fast asleep, and then you feel it. You are not alone in this room. You cannot see it yet, but you know. Something is here, standing in the corner, watching you. You try to call out. Nothing comes out. Then you feel the weight, pressure, on your chest, slowly pressing down, like something has climbed on top of you, and it is getting harder to breathe. And the figure in the corner begins to move. Closer. You cannot run. You cannot move. You cannot even close your eyes. All you can do is lie there and wait. Right now, as you are watching this, somewhere in the world, someone is lying exactly like that, unable to move, certain that something is in the room. This is not rare. It is not a disorder. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. Around 1 in 12 people will have this experience at least once in their lives. For some populations, the rate is much higher. Students under exam stress, night shift workers, people with disrupted sleep schedules. That is hundreds of millions of people. Students, soldiers, monks, farmers, factory workers, everyone. And every single one of them, when asked to describe what they experienced, says the same kind of thing. I woke up. I could not move. There was something in the room. I could feel it even before I could see it. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The paralysis, the pressure, the presence. 3 things reported together, almost every time. And here is what makes it stranger than almost any other experience the human brain can produce. Not similar, not roughly alike, not open to interpretation. The same dark figure, in the same corner, watching. People who never met, never read the same book, never shared a language. And they all wake up to the same visitor. This is not a modern problem. Humans have been recording this experience for as long as they have been writing anything down. And every culture that encountered it did the same thing. They gave it a name. They gave it a story. They built an explanation from whatever was available to them. In medieval Europe, they called it the nightmare. The word nightmare literally meant a creature, one that rides you in your sleep. In 1781, the Swiss painter Henri Fuseli made it famous. A woman asleep, a demon on her chest, a horse watching from the darkness. That painting became one of the most recognized images in European history because everyone who saw it knew exactly what it was. They had felt it. Crossed the Atlantic, moved to the coast of Newfoundland in Canada. The fishing communities there have a different name for it, the old hag. To be hagged meant to wake up pinned, unable to breathe, with something ancient standing over you. Go to Japan. They call it kanashibari. It means bound in metal chains. Sometimes blamed on a vengeful spirit summoned by someone who wished you harm. Move again. Southern Italy, the Abruzzo region, the Panda Fece, an evil witch, or sometimes a ghost, or sometimes, strangely, a large black cat. The form changes. The feeling never does. Now come forward to the present day. Something interesting started appearing in online forums in the late 1990s. People describing encounters with something they called shadow people, dark figures, standing and watching, gone when you could finally move. And then, among them, one description kept coming up again and again. A tall figure in a wide-brimmed hat, standing at the edge of the bed, just watching. Thousands of people, across dozens of countries, all independently describing the same figure, with no shared cultural tradition to explain why. The incubus, the old hag, the Kanashibari spirit, the Hat Man. Different names, different centuries, different continents. Same corner, same weight on the chest, same inability to move or call out, same watcher. So what is happening? Why does this keep being the same? In 1971, a folklorist named David Hufford arrived in Newfoundland. He was there to study folk traditions, ghost stories, local legends, and people kept telling him about the old hag. At first he assumed it was folklore, a local superstition, the kind of story communities pass down to explain the unexplainable. But the more people he interviewed, the more something bothered him. The accounts were too specific, too consistent, too independent. And he started asking a different question. Not, why do people believe this story? But, what actually happened to them? He spent years interviewing people who had experienced the old hag, not just Newfoundlanders. He sought out people from entirely different backgrounds, people who had no knowledge of the old hag tradition at all. And what he found disturbed him. People who had never heard the old hag legend described the exact same experience. Same paralysis, same pressure, same presence in the room. The experience was not coming from the story. The story was coming from the experience. He called this the experience-centered approach, the idea that the experience is real, even when the explanation for it is wrong. People were not inventing this. They were not mentally ill. They were not lying. They were experiencing something real, and then reaching for the nearest cultural framework to explain it. In 1982, he published a book called The Terror That Comes in the Night. He argued that across cultures and across centuries, people were reporting the same real phenomenon, not imagined, not passed down, independently experienced. The academic world was not entirely ready for this argument. Some dismissed it, some ignored it. But the question he raised has never been answered away. What exactly is the experience itself? The answer starts in a part of the brain most people never think about. Deep in the brainstem, there is a cluster of neurons called the subcoeruleus nucleus. During REM sleep, the stage where you dream, this cluster switches on. And it does something remarkable. It cuts the connection between your brain and your muscles. Complete motor paralysis. Every voluntary muscle switched off. This is why you do not physically act out your dreams. The paralysis is a protection. Without it, dreaming would be dangerous. But sometimes the timing goes wrong. Consciousness comes back, but the paralysis does not release. You are awake, fully, completely awake, but your body is still in REM lockdown. This usually lasts seconds, sometimes a few minutes, in rare cases longer. And the dreaming brain does not simply switch off during this overlap. It keeps generating imagery. It keeps creating. But now your eyes are open, and you are seeing the real room. The dreaming brain and the waking brain are running at the same time, and the dream begins to paint itself onto what you can see. The figure in the corner, the weight on the chest, the sense that something is watching. These are not purely imagined. They feel entirely real because they are being processed by the same systems that process reality. Scientists who have studied this have identified 3 distinct types of hallucination that occur during sleep paralysis. The first is the intruder, a felt presence, something in the room. You cannot see it clearly, but you know it is there, and it means you harm. It might take a shape, a shadow, a figure by the door, eyes in the dark. This is the old hag, the hat man, the kanashibari spirit, the same category expressed through every culture. The second type is the incubus, named for the medieval demon said to sit on sleepers, the physical sensation, the crushing weight, the feeling that your lungs are compressed, the certainty that you are about to suffocate. This one has a mechanical explanation. Lying on your back with paralyzed chest muscles changes how breathing feels. The brain interprets it as something pressing from outside. The third type is the strangest of all. Some people during sleep paralysis do not feel terror at all. They feel something closer to bliss. Scientists call this the vestibular motor type, the sense of floating, of leaving your own body. This is the same state that produces out-of-body experiences. The brain, cut off from its normal body feedback, starts generating its own sense of where it is in space. And sometimes it gets the answer very wrong. 3 types, 1 underlying cause. And across all 3, the same strange power to feel completely, utterly real. The mechanism explains the paralysis. It explains the hallucinations. But it does not fully explain one specific thing. Why is the presence almost always threatening? Why not a friendly face? Why not a neutral shape? Why not nothing at all? Why is it almost always something dark, something watching, something that means you harm? The best current explanation involves a structure deep in the brain called the amygdala, your brain's threat detection system, the part that keeps you alive by spotting danger before you consciously register it. During sleep paralysis, the amygdala goes into overdrive. You are awake. You cannot move. You are in the dark. You are flat on your back and completely vulnerable. Every signal in the oldest part of your brain is screaming. Something is wrong. Something is here. But there is nothing there. No real threat. Nothing for the amygdala to focus on. So the dreaming brain does what it always does when it has a feeling it cannot account for. It builds something to explain the feeling. And what it builds matches the oldest threat template the human brain carries. Something upright, something watching, something that knows you are there and is deciding what to do about it. For most of human history, the most dangerous thing that could be inside your shelter in the night was another person. An upright, watching, silent figure in the dark is the oldest signal the species has for your life may be in danger. And the brain, with no real threat to show you, shows you that instead. So now you have the mechanism. REM paralysis lingers. Consciousness returns. The dreaming brain overlays reality. The amygdala fires. The brain builds a figure. It is a clean explanation, and there is still something it does not close. If the figure is built by each individual brain, independently, drawing on individual fear vocabulary, why is it so specifically the same? Not just an upright figure, not just something dark, watching, patient, at the edge of the bed or in the corner, never moving until it does, always waiting. The neuroscience gives us the machinery. It does not give us a fully satisfying reason for the specific shape of the fear. One hypothesis, worth considering, even if it cannot yet be proven, that the shape of this particular fear, the watching figure, the patient presence, is not learned. It is inherited, encoded somewhere older than any culture, any story, any tradition. A template for the most ancient danger. Something in the dark that is watching you and knows you cannot run. That is still hypothesis, not proof. Science is honest about that. But consider what it would mean if it were true. Every person who ever reported this experience, in every century, on every continent, was tapping into the same deep channel. The medieval monk in his cell, the fisherman on the Newfoundland coast, the night shift worker in a city apartment. The same fear, the same visitor, the same figure that has been standing in the corner since before anyone had a word for it. Tonight, somewhere in the world, someone will wake up and find it there again. They will not be able to move. They will not be able to call out. And in the corner of the room, something will be standing there, watching them, waiting. All they can do is lie there and wait.